Hello everyone, this is Brian with ZimCo Survival and I am back again today. I am doing a review for you guys on the second part to my cook kit, and this is the 1100 milliliter pot with bale. As you guys know, I already have the 1600, which is what I take base camping. This pot fits in that pot. So if I'm going out with a group of people and I know I'm going to be in a place for a long time, I put the whole kit together and take it with me. But if I'm going out with just me and my wife, this is my cook set. This is what I bring with me. So that way I have one cook set that I can take pieces off of or add pieces onto depending on what I want to do. The 1100 milliliter pot, which is this one right here, is my go-to pot. Like I said, if I'm going out with my wife or even alone, this is what I bring with me. It's very, very light. I believe it weighs 3.5 to 4 ounces, somewhere in that area. Very light. I mean, you don't even know you have it in your hand. It's really, really light. It's ridiculously light. But this particular one is definitely a cooking over the fire style cook pot, where I would consider the 1600 to be a stove pot. Now, yes, you can cook over the fire with it. I've done that. But I do not consider it to be, a stove pot. I do use it with my alcohol stove. I do use it with my wood burning stove. But to me, it's because it lacks the bale handle and everything, or at least this version does, the one with the pot or the pan. I don't consider it, a bushcrafting survival style pot. This one I consider a bushcrafting survival style pot. It's the right size, it's the right weight, it's got your bale handle on it, which is also made out of titanium. I know a lot of people say, oh well, is this stainless steel? No, this is titanium. The whole pot is titanium, so you don't have to worry about that. So in my opinion, this is the perfect size for a 2-person cooking kit, perfect size for a bug out bag. It gives you plenty of room to boil water while still being a small compact package, and it will nest a 750 and a 450 additional pot and cup. So you could do that, put a 750 and a 450 in here and be able to dry bake. Well, I think it's a 650. I'm sorry, it's not a 750 pot, it's a 650 pot. And then the 450 cup. So all in all, I think it works out very, very well for people who are interested in bushcrafting, bug out bags. I would go with the 1100 milliliter pot. Now, as with all Toaks items, the 1100 milliliters is filled to the rim. So no, you will not fit a full 1100 milliliters into this pot, but Toaks puts graduations on the sides of their pots, or at least all the new ones, as you can see here. And the last graduation is the safe point. That's the point at which you shouldn't have boil over. So 0.8 liters, almost a full liter of water, you can boil in this pot effectively and not have to worry about boil over too much. But there you have it. Now, with that said, it does come with a stuff sack, but because the way my kit is, it comes with one of these orange sacks. Because the way my kit is, I got rid of the one for this pot, because this pot nests perfectly. And for those of you guys who want to know, these right here are the GSI nesting bowl and cup. Okay, let me just go ahead and take it apart a little bit here and show you guys that it is in fact a cup and a pot. I use it, or cup and bowl, I use it as just 2 bowls. Alright, so you got that right inside of there, and then this goes inside my 1600 pot. So I don't use a bag when I have this one, or at least I don't have it on me. I have it inside somewhere. I have to go find it. I don't have time to do that right now, but there you have it. Now, there is one flaw with Toaks pots that I would consider a major flaw that you'll have to decide for yourself whether you want to purchase it with this being an issue. and that is the fact that the tops don't sit very well. They tend to be fairly loose. Now, I found that on this one it's not as bad. So as you can see, this one isn't as bad. But if I go and I hit right here on the edge, it will flip over. But most Toaks pots, if you hit right here, the lid will flip over. See? I went too close to the edge. So the pot lid is loose. I will not say it isn't. It is loose, although not as bad as some of the ones that I've seen. So I don't know if I just got lucky and got a decent pot lid, or if Toaks made some adjustments. It does look like the edge of that maybe just a hair bigger than the older versions. I'm not entirely sure, but it does seem to sit a little more securely on top of the pot here. Now let me go ahead and get into the features. There's your lid. It has some steam holes there, and you can also use it to strain food if you wanted to. Now, you do have a little metal ring here that's a triangular shape, and if you pick it up like this and you slide it over like that, it stays up. So that way you don't have to worry, basically you don't have to worry about trying to pick this thing up while it's hot. It'll stay up for you, and then when you're done you just slide it back over and it falls right back over again. So I really like that about this one. There's no plastic components anywhere on this pot. Everything is titanium, 100% titanium. So I really like that. And I like the little metal ring. The thing about my Stanley pot, which was my old cook kit, was it did have a good pot lifter on it, but it was plastic. And I couldn't lift it up with something. I had to actually put my hand over it to pull it off. So I would burn my arm fairly often when I was trying to take the pot lid off. This way I don't have to do that. I just take myself, when I put the lid on, I just move this over, put a little stick under here, and just lift the top off. So it's a lot easier for me. I really like that feature. But let's go ahead and move on to the actual pot itself. There you are. As you can see, it does have graduation markings right here. This particular one goes up by quarters of a cup, or quarters of a liter. So you have quarter of a liter, basically 0.2 liters, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. So decent graduated markings, and they are visible. Let's see if I can show it to you. They are visible inside. So you can see them inside of the pot. Now, the handles here are kind of your standard butterfly style handles. They open up. They are coated in silicone, although I have not had a problem with my silicone melting. Again, I don't cook with this pot the way a lot of people do, where they'll shove them into a fire, put it on top of the fire, and you've got coals all around it. When I cook over a fire, what I tend to do is I'll have the fire here. I'll take a couple of rocks and I'll put one here and one there, and I'll scrape coals underneath this pot. So I've never really had a problem with scorching the pots or damaging this silicone coating. Some people do. I don't cook that way, so I've never had a problem with it. Now with these particular handles, they do have a fairly wide base, which makes it very stable. The only reason it's twisting right now is because my hands are twisting. You can see the very nice and stable. I don't feel, when I am using this, I don't feel like the pot's gonna move or adjust in any way that I don't want it to. Very tight. One of the things that I like about Toaks is how they do the friction of these hinges here. Most pots that have these types of handles, you go like this, and those things are banging all over the place. But as you can see, the Toaks didn't even really move. And that's something I really like about Toaks. Oh, that one moved just a little bit. But that's something I really like about Toaks, is that they think about the small stuff that makes these pots annoying. But there you have it. Pretty simple little review. It's a pot one last thing before I forget. The bail handle here. As you can see, it has your little notch bringing over the fire, make sure everything's nice and centered. But if you don't like it, you can just pop it off. And it's not hard to do. So now the bail handle is gone. One thing to consider though, it does have little brackets on the outside so you don't have holes in your pot. These brackets stick out a few millimeters past the handle, so you'll have to take that into consideration when you're deciding what you're going to stack this with. But considering the 1100 milliliter pot is basically the next step just below the 1600, I doubt that you're going to be putting this in anything else. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue. The bail handle brackets are only really an issue on the 750 because that one actually nests inside of other pots, and that one you can actually have a problem with. But this one, the only one it can nest in is this, and it's not an issue. So let me go ahead and I'm going to do a boil test for you guys. Now, before I do that, I'm going to boil 2 cups of water. Pretty simple, standard test for boiling water. I'm going to do it over a Esbit alcohol stove. And basically, we're just going to see how long it takes to boil the 2 cups. One thing about titanium, okay? One thing. Titanium, it's notorious for hot spots when you're cooking. The whole pot gets very hot, but not a cooking temperature. So you'll end up with this hot spot. The more pinpointed your heat source, the more concentrated that hot spot's going to be. So when I cook on titanium, I do not use propane or ISO stoves. If I do, it's a larger base because you need to heat up the whole bottom of this pot if you want it to cook properly. That's one thing that you guys need to know about titanium if you are thinking of purchasing it. Make sure the stove you're carrying is going to be one that's suitable. If you are carrying an ultralight style propane stove, make sure that all you're going to be cooking with it is water. That way the hot spot doesn't matter. But if you're cooking anything other than water in this pot, make sure your flame source is going to be able to cover this ring, or at least pretty close to it. You don't want a nice pinpoint hot spot right in the center of this pot, because you will burn whatever it is you're cooking. Just figured I'd go ahead and give you guys that information right off the bat. Let's go ahead and get to the stove and boil up some water and see how long that takes. Be right back. Alright, welcome back. We have our 2 cups of water. As you can see, this pot is large enough for 2 people, which is why it's my essentially part of my ultralight 2-person kit. So we're going to go ahead and put the top on here. Now I just have it over my alcohol stove right now. That's pretty much my stove of choice at this point. Let me grab my phone and we'll start the timer. Now we do have some wind going, so it's probably going to take longer to boil than it should. Right now I have my alcohol stove trying to reach temperature. Alright. So there we go. Hope you guys can see that. And we're going to wait and see when it starts boiling. So I will be right back. Yep, there we go. 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And I don't know how well you guys can see that, but we're getting close. Now again, I don't have a windscreen, which will affect the boil time. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but you can hear the fire starting to blow around there. Hush. Let's see if I can straighten this out for you. There we go. Alright. Sorry about that. There we are. Let's try to center that a little better. So we should be hitting a boil pretty soon. It's just about there. So we'll just go ahead and leave it. Like I said, titanium, very bad at getting an even cooking. So if you're going to use titanium, make sure that your flame source covers the whole bottom of the pot, or make sure that you're only boiling water in it. So if you want to cook in titanium, make sure that you're cooking properly. I dropped that thing. Come on, up, there we go. There you go, sorry, my mistake. Because if you're cooking something on a very small flame source, you're gonna burn it. It's a pretty much guarantee. So pick whatever cooking method is proper for what you're gonna be doing. If you're only gonna be boiling water, a small ultralight propane stove is fine, or an ISO stove. If you're gonna be cooking actual food in it, like grits or something like that, make sure that you bring a larger flame source like an alcohol stove or a wood burning stove or something of that nature. Or if you are gonna bring a canister stove, bring one that has a much wider flame base on it. Let's go ahead and check it. Should be getting pretty close to a rolling boil. Almost there. Let's see where we sit right now. Sit at 7 minutes and 45 seconds, which actually isn't bad for an alcohol stove. Alright, there we go. We got ourselves a nice rolling boil now at just under, well, right at 8 minutes. Considering we don't have a windscreen, that's a pretty decent time. Titanium will heat up very quickly and it'll cool off very quickly. So let's go ahead and get this off of our heat there. But that was 2 cups of water, cooked up fairly quickly. So I will go ahead and meet you back at the chair and we will go over the final thoughts. Alright, welcome back. In the time it took for me, I emptied the water out. In the time it took for me to empty the water out and walk over to my chair, it's cool enough to touch. Titanium is great for that. Lets you heat it up and cool it off very quickly. Again, the only thing that I see as a problem with titanium stoves or titanium cookware in general, and it's not just Toaks, it's any titanium cookware, is it's not the easiest thing to cook in, and you have to pre-plan what your stove is going to be depending on what you're going to be cooking. I've said it twice now, so I'm not going to say it again, but essentially you got to make sure that you know what you're cooking and plan your heat source accordingly. But overall, the quality of this item, it's going to last a very long time. This is not a throwaway item. I know a lot of cookware, especially aluminum, doesn't last particularly long and tends to need replacing on a regular basis if you use it a lot. In my opinion, titanium is one of those things that you can pass down from generation to generation if you take care of it. It's not something that's going to fall apart on you. You know, it's a lot like stainless steel. It's going to live for as long as you maintain it. If you're careful with it, you make sure you aren't throwing against trees and stuff, this pot is going to last you a very long time. If you abuse it and you sit there and you shove it into backpacks with 10 pounds, 10 pounds worth of weight on top of it, which you really shouldn't be doing because it's an ultralight pot. You shouldn't have 10 pounds worth of stuff to shove on top of this. But essentially, if you're careful with it, if you're the kind of person like me where you take care of your equipment, this pot will last you for a very long time. Now this is one of the more expensive pots they sell, believe it or not. The 1600 is about 50 bucks. This one with the bail handle is about $55. So this is the most expensive piece of my kit, but it is also my workhorse. This is what I take with me when my wife and I are going out and I want ultralight cooking kit. Now remember, this right here is not true ultralight because it still weighs more than a full ultralight kit would weigh, which is about 5 to 6 ounces for an ultralight kit. This one here is about 4 ounces alone, so no stove or anything included in that. So keep that in mind when you're purchasing this. This would be considered, in my opinion, an ultralight 2-person kit pot. This would not be considered an ultralight 1-person pot. Let me show you really quick, just for the sake of showing you. what I would consider an ultralight one-person pot. And this is what I bring out with me when I'm going out alone. This is my 750 Toaks pot, and basically in here I have the cup thing, and my 450 cup, and basically my utensils, and that's what I have in there. So if you're going ultralight, I would not be using the 1100. I would be using the 750 in combination with the 4500 cup. That's just my view on the matter, but I'll talk about this set later. This review is about this pot. All in all, it's worth every penny in my opinion. You're going to get years and years and years and years worth of use out of this, if not last the rest of your hiking career. I like all the little features they added. Sit there. The only problem with the lids, I like the features they added, like the little locking loop here that's also metal, so you don't have to worry about it melting or anything. The lid on this one, like I said, is a bit more secure than the others. I'm not going to call it perfect, but it's a bit more secure. But I knew that when I purchased this pot, I knew that the lid was going to be a problem. Although for me, I don't really mess with the lid that much when I'm cooking, so the fact that it just sits down there wasn't really a big issue for me. But yes, to answer some questions, the bail is titanium, the arms are titanium, the cross piece here is titanium, the whole thing is titanium. So you don't have any stainless steel parts on here. It is type 1 or type 2 according to the manufacturer, titanium. Some of their batches are type 2 and some are type 1. It just depends on what they had access to at the time. So keep that in mind. Type 1 and type 2 titanium are both good titaniums. Type 2 is better than type 1. It's got a bit more durability to it, a little more strength. But both of them will work just fine in my opinion. And judging by the amount of flex in this particular pot, I would say that this is a type 1 or a type 2 titanium. It's got very little actual flex to it, which is great. But that also means that it's going to be a little bit heavier than a type 1 titanium pot. But again, I'm not too concerned about that. It's still an extremely light cooking kit. But there you have it, the Toaks 1100 pot with bail handle. Can't forget that. Good overall pot. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I have used this a bit, but it is I have not used it as much as, say, my Stanley. So I'll be doing a 1-year update on these as soon as I reach that point, and give you guys a better idea of just how long, just how durable it is, and what my long-term experience is with this pot. But there you have it. That is my review. If you like it, as always, hit the like button and subscribe, and thank you guys for watching. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.